The year is 1944. Europe is a black pit, lit only by the fires of a world at war. We called the P-51 Mustang the ultimate bird, a daylight champion built for blue skies. But when the sun went down, the Luftwaffe's night fighters owned the dark. They were ghosts, invisible. And our bombers? The flying fortresses, they were sitting ducks. One pilot, a captain by the name of John "Lucky" Smith, knew the game had to change. His Mustang wasn't wired for night work. No radar, no special bells and whistles. Just 6 E-50 Cal guns, a whole lot of guts, and an instrument panel that was, quite frankly, a foul up. He only had one thing going for him that night: a broken compass. That busted piece of gear. It led him to his first night kill. How do you find a ghost in the dark and clobber him when your only guide is a liar? Stick with us. The answer is not what you think. Before Captain Smith, night flying in a Mustang was a no-go. This bird was a dogfighter, a high-altitude killer. She was magnificent, but she was never designed to be a night fighter. That job belonged to the heavy boys, like the P-61 Black Widow, packed with newfangled radar gear, enough gubbins to track a mosquito. Our Mustang drivers, they flew on guts and grit. Try to chase a Hun at night? You'd be blind. You'd get turned around. The air was a soup of fear and exhaust. Get lost and you'd be getting the chits out over enemy territory. It was pure FUBAR. The Germans, they were no dodos. They had their own night birds, their crews trained to hunt our boys in the black. They called our bombers the Christmas trees because of the sparks and lights they put out. Every mission our fortresses flew under the cover of night was a roll of the dice. The 8th Air Force boys needed a wingman they could count on in the dark. But how do you give a single-engine fighter, a daylight specialist, the tools to see a target that's using the night like a blanket? Enter Captain John Smith. He was one of those cool hands you always read about. Not flashy, didn't talk much chicken shit, but he had an obsession. The night sky. He saw what the top brass didn't, that sometimes the simplest solution is the best. He looked at all the complicated gear, the black boxes that never quite worked right, and thought, that's a lot of eggy in your beer. He believed the biggest edge was not in the machine, but in the pilot's head, and what they were willing to ignore. The groundwork for this broken compass trick was an absolute disaster. One night, Smith was flying a solo scramble, just trying to get practice. He got jumped. Fast. The Hun caught him, put a burst through his tail, knocking out his whole electrical setup. His radio went dead, his navigation lights gone, and the single most crucial piece of gear for getting home in the dark, his magnetic compass, it spun like a top. FUBAR. He was a goner. But what happened next? What he realized in those minutes of blind terror would change the air war. Hey, ever been on a road trip and that fancy GPS starts telling you to turn left into a cornfield? You get that feeling in your gut, right? Like you can't trust the map. Well, imagine that, but you're 20,000 feet up, and the cornfield is Germany. You gonna trust the needle that's spinning like a dodo? The captain had to ask himself that same question. It wasn't just a malfunction. It was a sign. A challenge. Smith realizes the compass isn't just broken, it's consistently useless due to the Mustang's inherent magnetic fields. He notes how it lies. The lie is constant. Smith starts using non-instrument navigation, the stars, the blackout ground, the faint glow of distant cities. He's learning the feel of his bird in the dark. He begins intentionally disregarding the fluctuating compass reading, relying on his training in dead reckoning, and his own strange, counterintuitive observations. Smith, a real big wheel when it came to guts, convinces his CO, commanding officer, to let him run a few black ops with his faulty setup. We detail the danger of these early flights. Flak is heavy. The risk of mid-air collision is high. One mistake is all it takes to check out. He starts seeing the subtle visual cues of the German night fighters. Faint exhaust flares, the slightest hint of reflected light on the canopy. One night, his counterintuitive system works to get him where he needs to be. But then, a massive dark shape appears on his tail. A genuine Hun night fighter. Smith is caught. He has no radar, only his faulty compass. We leave him in the sights of the enemy. His whole world just shrunk to the glow of the panel and the shape of the Hun's exhaust. The German pilot, he thinks he has an easy kill. But Smith, he's not fighting the German. He's fighting the Gremlins in his own cockpit. The broken compass, usually a foul up, is suddenly his last best friend. He realizes the flaw in the compass isn't random. It's a predictable error. He knows exactly how much it lies. The trick was simple, brilliant, and utterly mad. A P-51's electrics throw off the magnetic compass. Smith figured out that at high altitude, a specific power setting would always make the needle swing 17 degrees off course. Always. So, when the chart said fly west at 270, his broken compass would read 253. He started flying the lie. He navigated not by what the needle told him was true, but by what the needle told him was 17 degrees of wrong. Imagine your boss tells you to work harder, but only pays you for slacking off. That's what Smith was doing. He was using the error as the solution. Did he get extra pay for inventing a new kind of madness? Nope. Just a handshake and more chow in the mess hall. That's the Army Air Force way. Using the reliable lie of the compass, he could fly precise routes that put him inside the German night fighter patrols, using the Hun's own exhaust plumes as the target. Smith, now perfectly positioned, makes his move. We detail the high-stakes risk of attacking a nightbird that may have a tail gunner waiting. The moment of the first pass, sound of 50 cal guns barking. The visual shock of a tracer stream hitting a target in the dark. The German pilot is taken completely by surprise. The Hun is hit hard, turning into a fiery wreck that plummets to the deck. The emotional weight of watching another man's end. This is not glorious. It is somber, necessary war. Smith's lonely flight back, using his lying compass to find his way home. The relief, the adrenaline crash, the skepticism from the top brass. How do you log a kill based on a broken compass? Smith has to prove his technique wasn't a fluke. Other cool hands in the squadron start trying the Smith trick. They verify the 17-degree error. The news spreads through the Flying Fort's pilots. They now have a guardian angel. This simple trick starts turning the tables. The German nightbirds are suddenly the hunted. A single, resourceful pilot changed the whole operational picture. The Hun eventually figures out something is different. They begin changing their patrol routes, their radio frequencies, and their tactics. The broken compass trick is about to become a sitting duck itself. Smith must adapt, or the new edge is lost, and his war will be over. The Germans, they were smart cookies. They noticed their nightbirds weren't coming home. They put up invisible walls, new, complex patrol patterns. Smith's 17-degree lie wasn't enough anymore. They were flying on the edge of his range, making the night hunting even more dangerous. His trick was successful, but now the window was closing fast. You ever wonder why they didn't just bolt a huge radar set onto the Mustang? Well, this bird was a speed demon. Adding all that gubbins would slow her down, make her a jug instead of a fighter. They needed a better solution than technology. They needed more pilots thinking like Smith. Smith had to pass the secret on. He became a reluctant instructor, teaching young dodos not to trust the instruments they were trained to rely on. The irony was heavy. The toll of night combat, the exhaustion, the fear, the constant grind. We reflect on the fact that even with a trick, the job was brutal. Many pilots who followed Smith's lead still checked out. Smith's trick was never an official regulation. It was a secret passed from wingman to wingman, a lifeline in the dark. It's a testament to the resourcefulness of the American flyboy. As the war nears its end, technology finally catches up. Dedicated night fighters become the standard. But it was a broken compass that bought the time for those advances. What happened to Captain Smith? We talk about his return home, often a quiet man who never boasted about his dangerous, unorthodox trick. The whole war, the whole situation, was FUBAR. But sometimes, out of the deepest frustration and chaos, comes the purest moment of genius. We reflect on the profound loneliness of the night fighter pilot. No wingman to see you, no ground crew to wave you off. Just the glow of a compass you know is lying. A moment of somber tribute to all the pilots who flew the dark, dangerous skies, with and without Smith's trick. The trick wasn't about the compass, it was about human observation. It's a lesson that still applies today. Know your gear, but trust your gut. A final, powerful narrative moment describing Smith's last night mission. Maybe a long, silent flight home. The compass needle fixed on its perfect, comfortable lie. The bird touches down. The war is still raging, but for a few precious hours, the job is done. The flawed instrument saved the day. The war in the sky was won by technology, yes. But first, it was won by a pilot who looked at a broken compass and saw not a mistake, but a code. A 17-degree secret in the cockpit of a fighter, turning a predator into a ghost. His lie became their truth. And that, my friends, is how one cool hand changed the course of the big show. What other secrets are hiding in the history books? We dug deep to find this one. If you want to see the stories that the generals don't put in the official reports, hit that subscribe button. And tell us in the comments, what's the most FUBAR situation you've ever had to fix with a little Yank ingenuity?